All right. Okay, let's start the session again. So, all right, we are starting with the interview questions of NetDens. So we have an interface IA for now. So public abstract and void, I can take M1, right? Whether I add public abstract or not, it will be by default present, right? So no need to write it over here. So by default, public and abstract will be there, right? Okay. So now if fi class B, okay, and let's say I have a class C. Now we have already covered this in the inheritance. If the data types are different, we use implements, right? So implements IA, right? And we have seen in the abstract section that if I inherit an interface, then I will get the abstract method over here, right? And if I have any abstract method in a concrete class, that I have two options. If I want to keep the class concrete, I need to override the method. So what I can do is I can override the method to keep the class concrete, or else if I don't want to implement the class, then I will have to make the class abstract, right? This thing we have covered in the last session. This thing is clear, right?
Okay, yeah.
So same thing goes with the
Yeah.
interface. Last session we have done this with multiple classes, right? Okay, inheritance over here in the C extend say, and over here this thing is there, right? Abstract method M2. This thing we have done with extends keyword, right? With a. So instead of extends, now the only thing which has changed in the abstract key in the interface part, instead of being two classes, now we are working with the interface. So two data types are different. One is a class and another one is a interface. So implement will be there, right? And everything else will be same. So it's on me whether I can make the class abstract if I don't need to implement the changes, or otherwise what I can do is I can implement the method. Oh my bad, I can implement the method and provide its body so that I can make the class, I can keep the class concrete. And the class M1 method, cool, visible. This is
Yes.
the same thing as of interfaces, right? As of the abstract classes. But the thing is, with interfaces, multiple inheritance are allowed, right? Okay, I have, okay, cool, no worries. I have multiple inheritance package different separately, so I will use that. So over here we'll just make the runner, and now I can make object of class D, right? I cannot make object of class C, right? Because C class is an abstract class, so objects cannot be created of abstract classes, right? Yesterday we have got this thing. So I can simply call the d dot m1 method. dm1 visible. This is completely same as of the abstract keyword. Nothing has changed. Just only differences with the interfaces we use implements, right? And nothing else. And this thing we have already covered in the inheritance part as well. Now the methods with interface. Okay, multiple inheritance. Let's cover this multiple inheritance first. So IA, and IA will be interface. Alright, and interface I'll have void m1, right? I'm not going to write again that it's public abstract is by default, right? Because we have already covered it multiple times. I'm not writing it again now. And now I will have a class A. So this is how you'll usually find things, right? A will be concrete class and it will be implementing the IA, right? And if I'm implementing IA, then I have to implement this thing, right? Okay, and over here I'll say that it's a.m1, right? It's exactly similar or the same item that we have already done in the earlier examples, so nothing new. And a equals to new a, and a dot, my bad, a dot m1, right? So this is something that we have implemented again and again. A hyphen m1 will be the output, right? But it was a single interface, right? But with the interfaces, we know that the multiple inheritance is allowed, right? So now the question arises. The question arises if multiple inheritance allowed. So is it allowed with class? Class can implement then multiple interfaces, or only a interface can implement, or okay, if both are same then it needs to be extended, right? Another interface says. So which is the thing? Multiple interfaces are multiple inheritance is allowed. That's why we introduced the interface, right? So is multiple inheritance allowed with the inheritance only? I mean, if an interface can extend another interface, because see both data types are same, right? Interface here, interface here. So we'll use extend like we use in the with the class, right? We have covered this in the inheritance part. If you have any doubts, you can go and check the inheritance session. And now because over here data type is different, one is class, one is interface, so we will going to use implements. So now the thing is it allowed for interface? Multiple inheritance can be used with interface to interface only, or with class to interface, or both?
Both.
Yes, correct. Cool, great. So now the thing is, what I can do is simply I can create, okay, I can create IB. Okay, this is in the interface, and over here I'm going to create a method void m2, and I will create IC. Okay, over here I'm going to create a void m3. Oh my bad, m3. Cool. So first what we are going to see is interface implementing in the interfaces. Like this is interface, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going, okay, interface is here, and I want to inherit another interface. So which keyword should I use? Hello. Both data types are same. I am interface and I want to inherit another interface. Which keyword should I use if both data types are same?
Extends.
Yes, extends IB, right? And this is a single inheritance, right? Why the error? Because this now IA has two interface methods, right? Because IA has m1 from its own and its parent is IB has m2. So in the class A I have to implement m2 as well now. A hyphen m2. Cool. So let's go back to here, interface A, but I want to inherit C as well. So how can I inherit C? Just comma and another interface IC. Why the problem again? Because again the A now has to implement m3 method as well. Cool. A hyphen m3 visible. Now see, in my class C
Yes.
I have implemented only a single interface, right? IA. And IA interface has implemented multiple inheritance, right? It has shown the multiple inheritance concept, right? But if there is another interface and it's ID, okay, and over here I can write m4, right? So in this class I have implemented one thing, right? We have seen over here multiple inheritance are allowed with interface and interface, right? An interface can inherit multiple interfaces. What about a class? Can a class implement or inherit multiple interfaces? And the answer is right, but we just have to implement all the methods in that class as well. Okay, so if question arises in any form, please make sure that you know all the answers, right? Multiple inheritance are allowed for both the cases. Interface can also inherit multiple interfaces or class can also inherit multiple interfaces. Cool. We have already seen with the A. Over here also multiple inheritance of interfaces. A class is inheriting multiple interfaces, and over here also you can see a single class is inheriting multiple interfaces. Cool. Clear till now?
Yes.
All right. Now let's start with the methods. Now over here things will get little interesting. Okay, so after Java 8, before Java 8, you was not allowed to. Okay, access modifiers. How many types of access modifiers are there for method? How many types of access modifier are there? I'll leave for the method.
3.
Okay, it's 4, but not bad. Go ahead.
Public, private,
Okay.
abstract.
Okay, no. Abstract is not access modifier.
Sorry.
Protected.
Come again.
Protected.
Okay. So can we align it in there?
Yes.
In their access privilege, right?
Yes.
One is left, right? Which one is left?
Public. Default. Yes.
Okay, see, access modifier is very, 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 very important. So please make sure these basic topics you are aware.
Oh,
Because the thing
yes.
is, I mean, at least know the topics, right? If not internal things. All right, no worries. Let's go ahead. Please go through the videos again.
Yes.
If you are having a lot of office workload, then please go along the first part of the course. See, the thing is, the first part of the course that we are doing right now, it should be like rote learn, right? I'm not looking at any documentation or all those things, right? Because the thing is, we use these concepts on a daily basis. It's not like I'm not going to use, if I'm writing the code, it's not like I'm not going to use any access modifier anytime. If I'm writing any code in the Java on every daily basis, I will be interacting with the interfaces. I'll be interacting with the abstract methods. I'll be interacting with the methods, class, and the constructors, instance block, static block, then static variable, final methods, final keywords. So I'll be interacting with all of those things that we are covering in the first half of the top of our course. So it's a daily task that you are going to see in your daily basis, right? Multi-threading is something that you are not going to write on everyday basis, right? On few times you're going to write, monthly maybe once or twice, or maybe yearly once or twice. But these things, the first half of the course that we are doing, it's a regular everyday thing.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead. So what about the default keyword? Do we use to write the default, or it was default by default, and we never write this thing? If you don't write, then it will be a default for normal methods. Okay, the thing is, if you don't know the previous things, then how can I teach the next thing, right? So public void m1, right? This is a class, right? This is a class I'm writing inside a class, right? So public is the access modifier, right? I can make it protected, right? No errors, right? I can make it private as well, right? No errors, right? If I write it default, then there will be error, right? Default cannot be used over here, right? If I don't write anything, then it will be working as the default, right? So that was the thing with a class. But if you'll see the error as well over here, but it will say extension methods can be used only within the interface. So if you don't know whether the default we cannot write default over here. So by default it will be default, right? But with the interfaces, we have to write default, otherwise public abstract is there, right? So if I write default, then this will be overridden. It won't be abstract. So need to know the first part, then only, I mean, these are the basic blocks that we have covered. Alright, given said that, let's move ahead. Alright, so these are the 4 access modifiers. So which are allowed in Java, we'll see. And methods have 2 places, right? Instance method and static method, right? There are 2 types of method as well. So let's see how are these methods work with these access modifiers. and context area, right? Instance context area and static context area, right? So these are the two things that we have to cover. Alright, let me just copy it and put it here. Alright, cool. Now let's start with the methods, right? So we know that okay, inside this every method will be public and abstract, so I can write void m1, right, directly, and okay, interface, right? So this public and abstract will be by default, right? So I don't have to write it again and again. But what if I need to provide the body? Now the thing was, in Java 7 it was not allowed to write any default methods till Java 7, but in Java 8 it is allowed to provide the method body, right? This is abstract, right? Public abstract is by default. But what if I want to provide the body, right? It will say that okay, it is not allowed to provide the body, right? M2 over here you will see, okay, my bad, let me fix this first. Over here you will see that it's saying that it's not allowed, right? Interface abstract method cannot have a body. Why it's saying that it's an abstract method? Because public abstract are by default, right? But if I write the default keyword over here, now everything is fine, right? Even I can write the runner, and in the runner now, but the thing is, interface object cannot be instantiated, right? So to use this method that I have written, I need a concrete class eventually, right? I need a concrete class. Without alright, without a concrete class we cannot instantiate a. And over here, okay, let me remove, okay, m1 method is there, right? Let's just override m1 because m2 has a body, so I'm going to override only m1. Alright, give me one. Alright. So my IA has two methods, right? Okay, so it's different, right? Implements needs to be there. Alright, so in the m1 I'll say that a hyphen m1, right? And now I can create an object of a class over here, a equals to new way, and then a dot m1 and a dot m2, right? This m2 is a interface method, right? Interface default method, and this is a class public method, right? A interface. Let it die. Now we can see. Okay, it's going to take some time. IAM2 method, right? M2 is from the default, right? And default methods are allowed from 8 version of Java. So it used to be a very good interview question when the 7 version was also in the production environments, but right now as 17 is free, no one even asks questions of 8, so it's completely cool if we don't know that defaults are not allowed in Java 1.7, alright, or Java 7 version. Cool. The first thing is default methods are allowed in interface. So in the notes method section, with the methods, so default, right? So we have already covered this. Public abstract is by default, we have public abstract, right? And default methods allowed with concrete, okay, concrete methods, right? Concrete methods, and in concrete methods what is allowed? Default. One is default methods allowed, but the difference thing is with use of default keyword, right? In normal class we cannot use the default keyword, but in the interfaces we have to use default, right? Now another thing, we have covered the default methods, right? Now we know the default methods are allowed in Java, right? Interfaces, my bad. So now another thing, public, we already know that public keyword is allowed because it's public abstract, right? But public methods are not allowed. Normal method is not allowed. Only default method is allowed. Public void m3, right? If I try to write this and try to provide the body a hyphen, my bad, ia hyphen m3, right? So a public method cannot have a body in interface, right? So public method cannot have a body in interface. So that means if you write public, then by default abstract also be provided, right? Because public abstract is there by default. So public methods cannot have a body in interfaces. Okay, so what else is there? Protected, right? So what I can do, so I can write public method, abstract method I can write, right? Because public abstract is default. We are talking about the concrete body. Now just copy paste this method, and instead of public, let's try to write protected, right? Again, protected also not allowed, right? And so we'll just change that protected methods also protected concrete methods. Protected concrete methods not allowed. What about protected abstract method, right? If m2 is there, let's try to write m4, m3, right? It will be by default public and abstract, right? Can I okay, semicolon, can I make it protected instead of public? The thing is it allowed? Not allowed. Not allowed, right? So it needs to be public.
Yes.
The reason is, if someone is trying to access our interface, then it has to implement all the methods, right? If I'm hiding it, protected means outside the package only the child classes will be able to see this method, right? If I cannot oversee this method, how will I override the method, right? So with that logic, only abstract method can only be public in nature, right? Because we want other classes to implement it. That would be the first thing. And the next thing would be, okay, so we have covered public. See, public and protected. Abstract method can only be public, right, in interfaces. The reason being, we want it to get implemented, so we cannot make them protected, default, or private, right? Because these things will hide it, right? We don't want to hide it because it's in interface. The interface cannot be used, or if I try to inherit it, the class cannot be a concrete class if I have some abstract, this abstract method and I have hidden it, right, from the child class. So child class will never be able to override it because it's not visible. So the class has to be abstract all the time, right? So they don't allow every abstract method will be public, right? So public keyword is allowed, but only with the abstract method. Protected keyword is not allowed. In interfaces, default is allowed, even with the body as well. Again, next thing, can I have this void m3 method, right? This is by public, right? So default keyword access modifier is allowed with the concrete methods, right? We have seen this and we have used this as well. But is default keyword allowed with the abstract method? Because it will be default abstract, right? Because abstract is by default. So the answer is no. Only public keyword will be allowed, right? The reason is public is already there, right? Public and default, both access modifier cannot be there, right? So public keyword can be used, but only with abstract, and it is by default as well. So whether you write it or not write, it will be there. Now default we can see, default we can have, but only with the concrete methods. Now the last thing, private. Again, it's obvious that private cannot be with the abstract, right? Because we want it to be visible to the child classes so that they can override it. And private keyword make sure that method is not visible outside the class. So the private cannot be with the abstract keyword. The combination is illegal. But what about the method? If I have, we know that the default is allowed, right? Void m3. So we know that the default is allowed, ia in -m3. What about the private? The answer is private is also allowed. right? A lot of people don't know this. Private method is also allowed, but the thing is it cannot be accessed, right, outside the class. So I need to make sure that I have a default method that can use it, or I have to override a method so that I can use it. So private methods also allowed in interfaces. Private methods. Okay, so default methods allowed, concrete methods in interface. So default allowed, private allowed. All right. And protected not allowed. Okay, over here in the concrete method, if I write the protected, not allowed, right? Only two access modifiers are allowed, private and default, right? And default in normal classes we cannot write default. Default we have to write only in interfaces, the default keyword. And clear till now?
Yes.
All right, the next part will
Yes.
be the instance method and static method, right? So these were instance method, right? Already. What about the static methods? So let's say if I write this public, okay, so let's write public, okay, void m4. See, I know that the default keyword I can write, right? And then I can write ia and hyphen m4. So this is default, right? So what if I write static over here and remove this? So public, static public void m4, right? Or protected, can I write the protected over here? Protected is not allowed in interfaces.
Interface.
So public I can write public static, all right, void m4. And why public static is allowed? Any answer? The answer of this we have already discussed multiple times. One question again from the inheritance. Can we override the static method? See, this question again is very important.
No, no.
Okay, what's the reason why cannot we override static methods?
Okay. The because the method is declared static. That's why.
Not an answer. It's it's not an answer. See, static is there, right? It's obviously there, but why? I want to reason. I mean, this cannot be a reason, right?
Okay.
It's like what does it mean by what does it mean by cloning? And the answer cannot be cloning, right? The answer needs to be something else. Is that why static methods cannot be overridden? Because it's static, not answer, right?
Yes. Uh,
What is the requirement for overriding? There needs to be an object, right?
same methods should have.
Same method, but there needs to be an object, right?
Okay.
Static methods are associated with an object or a class.
Class there.
So it's associated with a class, and we override the methods. If I have an object in
Okay.
a
Okay.
class, like
Yes.
suppose B class, I have an object in the B class, and I'm having an object of a B class, and I want to call M2 method, right? So if I'm trying to call the M2 method, what will happen? It will try to find the method inside that object. If it's unable to find the object in M2 method in the B class M2 method, then it will try to search it in the A class. That would be its parent, right? And it will keep on going to its ancestor until it finds the B method. So that's how it goes, right? But the static methods are associated with the class, right? It's not associated with the method. So if something is not associated
Yes.
with the method, how can I override it, right? So same, the answer of this question is also the same, because we want some methods to get overridden, right? And static methods is never overridden, right? Because they are associated with a class, right? Interface is also a class, a special type of class which object cannot be created and which supports the multiple inheritance. So if I want to call the method m4, I can directly call it, right, without even creating an object, right? So static methods are not associated with the objects, right? I for I'm able to access. So it is allowed. It was allowed in previous 7, 8, and everywhere it's allowed, right? Because it's not associated with the object, it's associated with the class, right?
Class.
Interface is also a special type of class which allows multiple inheritance and which object we cannot be created. Cool. So this was the interface, right? So we have covered all the important questions. Okay, let me just see if something is left. So okay, multiple inheritance. Okay, and the multiple inheritance. Okay, and this, and inside this we have taken care of the normal method. And okay, all the access modified covered, static and this covered. All right. Okay, should we start with directly design pattern or something else? Interfaces. Okay, there are marker interfaces, right? So I'm not going to write anything with the marker interfaces, but just one thing I would like to write, like for example, clonable is a marker interface. What does it mean by the, but see, nobody is going to ask this question about the marker interface and all. But the thing is, these are the interfaces that one needs to know. Even if you don't know the name of the marker interface, then also it's completely acceptable. There is no issue with that. So the another important question is functional interface that we are going to see. So right now we can see there is no methods to be implemented, right? But if I inherit this interface, I will get the implementation of a class implements the clonable interface. So the object.clone method will become legal for use, right? If I don't inherit this, the object.clone method will throw an exception, right? Class not supported exception it's going to throw. So the marker interface are the interfaces which don't force us to implement any method, but they provide the functionality. They provide different functionality or provides the different powers to us when we inherit it, right? And because we can inherit any number of interfaces, because multiple interfaces are allowed in Java, multiple inheritance is allowed with the interface in Java, so we do not lose anything, right? So this was the one of the interfaces was clonable. Okay, now another one you will find the serializable, right? No method, right? Visible. This by implementing this we can make sure that our class is serializable. We don't have to do this because Java internally do a lot of stuff, but earlier we used to use it, right? So the next thing is we can go inside this. See, you will find a lot of marker interfaces being used, right? Serializable in ArrayList is using serializable, it's using clonable, right? It's also using random access, right? Random access is also marker interface, right? No methods, right, to implement. Cool. So you will see internally a lot of Java classes will be using a lot of marker interfaces, right? Because we don't have to implement anything, we'll just simply can inherit them, right? So this is how thing goes with the marker interfaces. So marker interfaces are different, are special kind of interfaces which don't have any abstract methods or don't have any methods, but implementing them provides us the special power or the behaviors. Cool. For example, clonable interface, if I implement it, will make sure that I can use object.clone method without any exception. If I don't implement it and try to use the object.clone, I'm going to get which exception? I'm going to get clone not supported exception, right? And same goes with the serializable. If I don't implement the serializable and try to serialize the object, then also I'm going to get the exception, right? And which exception I'm going to get? Invalid class exception, right? And there are different exception also. Any one of these I can get. All right, let's remove this now. And then yeah, now this thing is important, right? See, marker interface no one is asking right now, but what other thing everyone is asking is functional interface. See, and what is a functional interface? Functional interface is an interface which have only one abstract method. Is it written anywhere? One. C. Okay, if one interface declare one C. If an interface declares an abstract method overriding one of these methods that also does not have an interface abstract count, okay. Okay, somewhere down the road it will be written. I mean, if an interface has a single abstract method, then it will be declared as functional interface, right? If I use the annotation function interface and if I try to write more than one abstract method, then I will get an exception, because function interface is a special kind of interface on which only a single abstract method is allowed, right? Now the question arises that if a single abstract method is allowed, so does that mean it cannot have any other methods, right? Over here you can see this is also a single function interface. Why? Because it has only one abstract method, right? Why abstract method? Because it's an interface, public and abstract will be by default there, right? So same goes with single abstract method is there, right? There is no nowhere it is written that it's abstract method. Why? Because interface is there, by default it's public and abstract, right? And over here you can also see the function interface. So function interface is a special kind of interface where where I am allowed to only write a single abstract method, right? So let's functional interface exception. Okay, not exception, question. F6. Cool. Over here let me write IA, right? So I'll write M1. Is this a function interface? Okay, my bad. Is this a function interface or not? Is this a function interface? Yes, it is. What's the condition for a function interface? That there should be only one abstract method, right? What is the requirement of a functional interface? Functional interface, there should be max one abstract method, right? There should be not max, there should be one abstract method, right? So if I'll write at the rate function interface over here, no exception, right? So if I'll write another method M2, now there is an exception, right? Multiple non-overriding abstract methods found, right? So I cannot write, if I'm annotating something within the function interface, then I cannot have multiple abstract methods, right? What if I don't have any abstract method? Then too there is an issue, right? Because there should be one abstract method required, only one. So functional interface can have only one abstract method, right? What if I write some other methods, right? Default void M2. Will it be considered as functional interface if I have other concrete methods? If I have concrete methods, will it be considered function interface or not?
Yes.
See, the condition only says there should be one abstract method, right?
Yes.
So it will allow, right? There is one abstract method, so it does not care whether you have 1 or 10 instance method, right? Over here you can see it's still valid, right? And okay, clonable, not clonable, okay, all right. In this is a comparator, right? This is a function interface, right? Visible function interface, and you can see this is a, because it's interface, this is public abstract, right? Visible?
Yeah. Yes.
And below it you can see another, what is this, another, you can see this default Default method is also there, right? Default method is there, right? In comparator interface, default method is there, right?
Yes.
Default method is there. Default method is there. Default method is
Yes.
there. Default. You'll see a lot of default methods, right? It's static also. So the thing is, we don't care whether there are multiple default methods. That's not issue. No issue. Only one thing I need to make sure that abstract method should be only one, right? And one should be one, right? At least one or only one should be one and one only, right? There should be one and only one abstract method, right? We don't care about the default methods. So this was a part of function interface. This question is important, right? Why is it important? Because in streams we use function interface, right? Function interfaces are introduced in 1.8. See 1.8, right? And we use it in streams because it becomes easy for us to implement something that has been, to override a method. We can override a method directly, right? We can provide implementation if we have a single overridden method. We will see that thing in the streams, right? Stream section. So that's it. That was with the interfaces. Now just give me 2 minutes. I'll be back, and then we are going to implement the static design pattern. It will be if but for the first time anyone is seeing the design patterns, you will find it hard to inculcate it, but it is still, the intention of this course is not to make sure that you are aware of how we write the design pattern, but just to know that this is where we use abstract keyword, and the interfaces are used for the design patterns, and that's the thing that the senior software engineers or the tech leads usually do. So just 2 minutes, I'll be back.